now we've talked about the finals. I was having a conversation with my dad because I saw this on TikTok.
Hmm.
Game seven last night was, obviously the most important game in the Thunder's history. But because, if they lost, it would have forced them to almost, I mean, obviously it wouldn't have happened the year after, but over time, the rosters would have been changed out. J-Dub, Chet with their emergence, you would have to choose one or the other to go with SGA. So I was telling my dad, like, you know, this is probably the most important game of the Thunder because it dictates their future. And I feel like the future of the OKC Thunder now, it looks like a potential dynasty. I don't see them going anywhere. I don't see any of the players going anywhere. Honestly, I think they all love to be together. But Marco, what are your thoughts? And then we can get into Indiana too.
Yeah, I mean, I think you gotta retain the three. I know I'm on OKC Twitter sometimes, and some of them are having discussions whether or not they should max Chet or J-Dub. I think both of them pretty obviously deserve max contracts, and if you don't give it to them, they're gonna get it somewhere else.
Yeah.
With your picks, I think you just gotta hope that you keep hitting on draft picks and replenishing the depth because those three are a championship core and they're all deserving of max contracts. It's not like the Nuggets where they like max out Michael Porter Jr., who's a really good player, but not really deserving of a max. You know what I mean? Like he's a player
I
you'd like
know
to
what
keep
you mean.
around, but the price tag was just too high and it
Yeah.
inhibits your team building. I think those three guys fit together really well and pretty easy to build around. So yeah, um, I think you just got to continue to put shooting around them because I thought this team would be look way more unbeatable than they did in these playoffs.
Mm.
Getting taken to two game sevens is kind of not expected from me. I kind of thought they would dominate in a way that like the Celtics did last year. Um,
I see what you mean
and
by
I
that,
think I think a
honestly.
lot of it is just 3 point volume. When you're a team that is inconsistent shooting the ball as they do, you're prone to losing games to teams that you should be beating. Um, so yeah, I think just putting more shooting around them. But yeah, you definitely have a championship core. You saw that this year, and I think it's important to retain those three. And I think they learned their lesson from the KD Harden and Westbrook thing, and I think that they
Yeah.
will retain these
Yeah.
three for as long as possible.
And I think the scary part is that because they're all young, like I wouldn't say they're Warriors-esque because they've had a mix of veterans and younger players, but I think the Thunder team is scary because they're younger and they've done it all. You know what I mean? Like they've climbed the mountain and now they have a chance to go back at it again. And for the most part, most of their team is coming back. So it's definitely looking crazy for the West. Obviously, they're gonna be the front runners. Um, and I guess on the downside with Indiana, what do you think about their future? And I'll go right after you once you say what you got to say.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, their only like key free agent this year is Miles Turner. I would try to bring him back. I'm sure he would love to be back. He's been there
Yeah.
since he was drafted in what was it, 2014? He was 20
Yeah.
no,
Yeah, bro.
2015. He was the 2015 draft because 2014 was
Oh yeah,
Embiid,
'cause he's
and
been
then
here for 10 years.
2015
Yeah,
was
you're
the
right.
All
Yeah,
Star
you're
draft.
right. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so he's been there 10 years. I'm sure he'd love to be there still. They have their pick back for next year in the trade that at first it was kind of weird because they were trying to free up some salary. It looked like to get Miles Turner back, and they gave up a draft pick this year for their own pick next year. Even though the draft pick this year is most likely going to be better than their pick next year,
Yeah.
they're just trying to not sign the rookie this year to have money to sign Miles Turner. So if you have a bad year with Halliburton being hurt likely the whole year, like you have your draft pick, and then you can just run it back when Halliburton gets back. But obviously, they don't want to take a year off. No team does, especially coming off of a championship appearance where you go to 7 games. So I don't
Yeah.
know. They have a really nice squad. I wouldn't be surprised if in a weak East they're still able to be a playing team or be a playoff team. I think their ceiling is significantly lower than their floor is significantly lower because of no Halliburton, but I'm sure that they'll still be an exciting team to watch next year and probably be around the playing would be my guess. So yeah, I think just retain Miles Turner and um, just get Halliburton healthy.
Yeah, I mean, similarly to you, bro. I feel like because of the Halliburton injury, he's obviously going to be out for the year, and it's I just don't see that roster competing at the same level that they've done previously. Mainly because Halliburton was the key factor in them getting past a lot of these teams. Um, it's definitely tough as I'm not a Pacers fan, but I can only imagine as a Pacers fan, it's gonna be a tough year upcoming because it's like you got the same guys. You can initially run it back, but you don't have the guy that you really need to run it back. Um, so yeah, it's gonna be interesting for me to see how they respond to not having Tyrese Halliburton. Obviously, I feel like someone's gonna have to be like the second fiddle to Pascal Siakam. So it's gonna be interesting to see which player takes that or which player fills that role. And hopefully the Pacers can come back. I'm definitely a little scared for Tyrese Halliburton just because, it's an Achilles. Most players that are, you know, I'm just in general, most players don't recover well from Achilles tears, you know what I mean? And that's like scary. KD is probably the only one that we know that has recovered, but even still, like pre-Achilles KD versus post-Achilles KD, I feel like are two different kind of players. Um, I feel like KD's a little less mobile, but Indiana plays in that play style, like I wonder if Halliburton will be able to continue playing that play style, or will he have to change his game? And if he has to change his game, how does that affect Indiana? That those are kind of the thoughts that come to mind when I really think about it. Um, but yeah, like I feel like Indiana's future is bright, but at the same time, it's like you can definitely raise questions and concerns.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's with the injury, I think is way more up in the air than I would have said if you asked me the same question, like this time yesterday, before the game, because I would thought they'd been a competitive team for a long time. But now, yeah, you're losing your best player for at least one full season, and when he comes back, you really don't know what he's going to look like. So I definitely think it's more questionable now. But um, I think it would be a scary thing to tear it down because you know what you have now. So I think taking a season, like even if you know that you're probably not going to compete at the highest level, um, I think I'd rather have that than just make a bunch of moves and come back when Halliburton's healthy after next season and be like, oh no, we just totally destroyed any chance that we have. So I'm pretty sure their team is pretty locked in 2 years from now
Yeah.
too. They were showing it on the broadcast last night. So I'll just try to retain guys. Next year, um hopefully you make some noise. You draft somebody good and then you can come back again when Halliburton's back and be a competitive team. So
Yeah, man. And I mean, like, even with Achilles in general, there's been three players or three stars, I guess you could say, that have torn their Achilles specifically this postseason. Um, Dame, Hallie, and Tatum. So it's like there's a lot of questions I think that fans are asking. Like, for example, one question I saw was, should the league shorten the season, right? And then other questions that I've seen would be stuff like, do players need to stop wearing low top shoes? I don't know. Like, I was just kind of wondering, like, if you've seen that chatter, and then also like, what do you think, just about this postseason injuries, you know, etc.
yeah, I'm not sure I would think the shoes have anything to do with it. I did see one thing today where they were talking about the negative step on a drive, where it's like, let's say you're spotted up at a 3 point line and you catch the ball, you like step back with your right foot to start driving or whatever. That puts a big
Oh
stress on your
yeah,
Achilles
yeah,
back
yeah.
there. So they're
Mhm.
saying that that's a move that should probably stop being taught because it puts a lot of like stress on your Achilles tendon. So that I thought that was interesting. I would have to read more into that because right now, like I don't know, like maybe they're overrating it. Maybe they have a good point there. But that's something I read today that I would probably
Interesting.
want to look into more. But yeah, I think ideally, like it won't happen, but I think shortening the season to 72 games instead of 82 would make a lot of sense. The pace is higher than it has been since like the 50s or the 60s or whatever. And even then, they didn't have the same floor spacing that they do now. So I'm sure players are traveling now more than ever, like on the court in terms of how many steps they're taking,
Yeah.
and that puts a lot of wear and tear on your body. So, yeah, I mean, like all things equal, it would be nice to adjust it and to make the games lower to have less back to backs and have less 3 and 4s and stuff like that. Sadly, I just don't think the league will do that because that's giving up a lot of money. And to
Yeah.
be honest, I'm not sure the players would do that because they would be giving up money as well because the league bringing in less money. Their contracts would likely be lower because they're playing less games.
Yeah.
So I just don't think anybody would agree to that. But yeah, like if the goal was to truly limit injuries, I think that would be not the solution. You'll always have injuries, but a solution that would definitely decrease them. Um, but yeah, I was wondering what you think.
Um, Actually, that's a great question because I wanted to know if I'm tripping when I say this or not, right? It's cool. Like, obviously, I would love to see them reduce the schedule because I do think you're right. A lot of the wear and tear, night in and night out is definitely going to lead to injuries, regardless of the player is a superstar, on the bench, someone who's a role player, etc. Right? I was thinking, in order to limit the pace, maybe, and this is honestly, credit to 2K because I've been playing past 2Ks. What if the league goes back to the 24-second shot clock instead of, you know, continuously going to the 14 or after the ball hits the rim? Because I remember Adam Silver shortened the shot clock
Mhm.
in order to make the games more watchable and increase the pace. I forget what the whole synopsis was because I read it like whenever what was it instituted? Like 2019?
Yeah, no, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. So I don't know. What do you think? Am I tripping for suggesting that?
it what you're saying kind of makes sense, but the thing is, um, you wouldn't you'd be like very it wouldn't limit the back and forth that much. I feel like because it would just let you work a little bit longer in the half court getting your shot up. So maybe you would reduce the possessions a little bit if teams were to use those like extra 10 seconds.
Yeah.
I just don't think it would limit it that much to the point where it would make a difference. I think having like more days off would matter more than decreasing the workload in those specific days where you were working, if that makes sense.
Nah, I
Like,
get that.
like getting them an extra rest day instead of having as many back to backs. Because I remember what was it? It was like I could have swore in like 2016 they were saying they were trying to get rid of back to backs, and then
Yeah, they've been because I remember they extended the season like a couple weeks earlier in 2018 or the year that Kyrie went to the Celtics. I remember
yeah,
they moved the schedule up.
yeah. So they were saying that back then, and then they did a really good job of limiting the back to backs to 1 year, and then they kind of didn't do anything else after that.
Yeah.
I was like, oh well, because every year I was expecting to have less and less until eventually we have none. But I guess you got to continue lengthening the season to have that, which I wouldn't mind. Like right now, it's WNBA zone and baseball zone. I like baseball, but I know not a lot of people are baseball fans, and not a lot of people are WNBA fans. So I think everybody would be okay with them extending the season a little bit longer. I mean, the players it would be tough because it goes into their off season,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I think they would be open to the negotiation, especially after how many injuries have popped up. If you like came with medical reports, I think it'd be worth a conversation. Maybe it wouldn't happen, but
Yeah, maybe
I
like the
think it would
next
be something that's on
CBA.
the table. Maybe you could offer them like a longer All Star break too, if you're extending the season,
Yeah.
just to get them a little bit more vacation time or like family time there.
Yeah, nah, that
Um,
makes sense.
yeah, I don't know. I think there are ways that it could happen. I just don't see the season ever being shortened.
Yeah. Nah, I feel you. I feel you, bro.